Welcome back to my channel, guys. So today is the continuation of ameloblastoma. We had tried to cover ameloblastoma, but unicystic ameloblastoma, metastasizing, and the treatment was remaining. I will just give you a overview of what we have covered, and then we'll start with unicystic and metastasizing. So ameloblastoma synonyms are adenocarcinoma and adenoblastoma. Multilocular cyst, it is also known as. Why is it known as multilocular cyst? Because the radiographical features are seen to be multilocular. So we have spoken about the definition. I hope you have written it, and you have to by heart it. There is no other way. Then we saw the classification. It was classified by WHO, modification 2022. Ameloblastoma unicystic, ameloblastoma extraosseous or peripheral, ameloblastoma conventional, and adenoid ameloblastoma. And then there is metastasizing ameloblastoma. Here, if you see, I've spoken about unicystic, which we'll talk about detail today. Extraosseous, the ones which is other than the bone, histological features similar to the conventional one. The conventional is, we have talked about islands with the periphery of ameloblasts, and the basal, the ameloblast cells have hyperchromatic nuclei, and they are palisaded as well as they are polarized. Reverse polarity is seen, and there is loose central epithelium resembling stellate reticulum that we saw in conventional. Then there is adenoid ameloblastoma, which you see walls and morules, cribriform, duct-like structures. It is a mixture of adenoid, odontogenic, and ameloblastoma, but it is in adenoid ameloblastoma because the epithelium is ameloblast. Then we talked about metastasizing, in which detail we are going to learn in this video. So I've shown you about pituitary and ameloblastoma, pathogenesis, why is it caused, there is a mutation to be thought in during the active tooth development, MAPK and hedgehog, mutation in the maxilla, when the ameloblastoma is presented, it is due to the mutation of BRAF V600E mutation, and this is in mandible, and in maxilla it is SMO mutation. Then there is environmental factors and in individual patient variables such as general health, nutrition that I have spoken about. The clinical features, this is very important. If you have a short note, you have to write about it. Starting, it's painless, and how many people arise, where, predilection, face symmetry, everything you have to write. How it is locally invasive, or all of that stuff. Then where, in which region it is most found, that it's most found to the angle of the ramus in mandible. Then the radiological features, you have to write soap bubble, compartment, septae. Also you can write multilocular, also known as multilocular cyst. And then there is smoothing of cortical plates. All of that you all can then we spoke about the histological types. This is about conventional ameloblastoma, if there is any confusion. Everything is about conventional ameloblastoma, the clinical features, the histological subtypes, everything. So there is follicular, plexiform, acanthomatous, basal cell, granular cell, desmoplastic. So I have told you everything. The one thing you should remember by follicular is islands, nice islands. For plexiform, you will have metastasizing, anastomosing cords. Then acanthomatous, you will see keratin pole. Basal cell will be the basal cell. This is very rarely seen, and it's very primitive. So it is not. The basal cells only are hypochromatic, and they are mostly cuboidal to columnar. Granular cell, you will see granules in the cytoplasm of the stellate reticulum. and you will appreciate that once under ultrastructure these granules appear to be lysosomes. So why it is lysosome, I've explained it in the last video. Then there is desmoplastic ameloblastoma, in which you will have kite-like appearance, that is squeezing of all the islands due to the collagenous stroma which is present. And then I had given you a picture of each. You can go and revise in the last video. Then there are other variants such as hemangiomatous and keratoameloblastoma. Hemangiomatous is something which blood vessels are present in. Keratoameloblastoma, keratin pearls are present. Then these are some of the points. This is subepithelial highlights. This you don't have to write as such in a short note if it's come, but it can be asked in Viva, like why is subepithelial hyalinization formed? Then you should be able to answer. And Vicker-Gollins had given these points so that it can be considered a neoplasm. These points such as hyperchromatization of basal cells coinciding with polarizing of basal cells and cytoplasmic vacuolization. Now we come to our main topic, that is going to be unicystic ameloblastoma. So this is a distinct entity. Criteria for diagnosing a unicystic ameloblastoma is demonstration with single cystic sac. So as we saw earlier, there were a multilocular, it was called as multilocular because there were a lot of entities, there were a lot of cystic sacs. But here there is only one single cystic sac. Often it is macro, very big, very large, with odontogenic epithelium. When I say odontogenic epithelium, ameloblast, because we are learning ameloblastoma. It has odontogenic epithelium. It is a single entity with a unicystic ameloblastoma with a cystic sac, single cystic sac. So mutation in the BRAF V600E is said to be the etiology. Why is it caused? Now clinical features, it is seen as intraosseous ameloblastoma. That is, it is related to the bone. It will be in the bone. Slightly male predilection, so male is more than the female. When not associated with impacted tooth, occur more in female. So when it is associated with impacted tooth, it's male more than female. When impacted tooth is not there and you have ameloblastoma still being there, which is unicystic, then it occurs more in females than in males. Average age for this presentation is 22.1 years. So mandible is more prone than the maxilla, and the third in the mandible also, the third mandibular molars and the ascending ramus area, third mandibular molars and the ascending ramus area, followed by the body and the symphysis. The body and the symphysis. Here the symphysis, the body, the mandible, ascending mandible. If there is maxilla, then it will be posterior or more prone than the anterior. Site will be intraradicular or periapical regions and in edentulous patient. So in edentulous patient, the site can be interradicular and periapical position. Between the two roots, interradicular, periapical will be beneath the root, beneath one root. Now we come to the histological types. As we saw, conventional had 6 types. This has 3 types. You have to remember. So lining epithelium exhibiting alteration virtually identical those by Vicker-Gollins as represented early ameloblastomatous changes in the dentigerous cyst. So the Vicker-Gollins criteria I had shown you. The lining epithelium of this cyst can be seen as from a dentigerous cyst. When it is transforming to a ameloblast, unicystic ameloblast, then you will see there will be changes in the lining epithelium as mentioned by Vicker-Gollins. Again, I'll read this sentence. Lining epithelium exhibiting alteration virtually identical with those described by Vicker-Gollins as representing early ameloblastomatous changes in a dentigerous cyst. So in a dentigerous cyst, you know what is a dentigerous cyst, no? There is an impacted tooth and there is a cyst. We'll learn about dentigerous cyst later when we talk about cyst. So the lining epithelium of this cyst is getting changed. You can virtually see it into the ones I told you before, that is Vicker-Gollins criteria. So luminal, there are 3 types. The lining epithelium can change into 3 types. The histological types of unicystic, luminal unicystic ameloblastoma, that is the tumor is confined in the lumen, the luminal surface. So as you see, there is this lumen and the tumor is inside. Outside there is a wall or the connective tissue. This is not broken. The wall is not broken. This part is not broken. So there is everything is inside this lumen. Second is intraluminal. That will be also known as plexiform unicystic ameloblastoma. Plexiform unicystic ameloblastoma if it is inside the lumen. Because you will see that nodules of the epithelium are coming into the lumen which can intermose with each other. Now intermosing pattern, intermosing strands are plexiform. So plexiform unicystic ameloblastoma can be intraluminal. So intraluminal plexiform unicystic ameloblastoma, nodular proliferation of the epithelium into the lumen. Then there is mural unicystic ameloblastoma. When I talk about the mural, in the mural, what happens is the nodules of the extensions of the lumen, they go into the connective tissue. Can you appreciate? Now this is the connective tissue, this is your intraluminal and this is your mural presentation of ameloblastoma. So you will see the luminal have come out of the lumen to the connective tissue. Growth of the lining epithelium into the connective tissue and invasive islands of ameloblastoma epithelium into the connective tissue. So you can see them as invasive islands of ameloblastoma into the connective tissue. Now we come to, this is called as Eckermann classification. It is luminal, intraluminal and intramural. I am going to show you. The red one which you see is going to be luminal. So can you appreciate this lumen? This is all luminal. It is there within the lumen. But here you can see something. That's we are going to talk about. This is the stroma inside. This is stellate reticulum. But now if you see here, this is intraluminal. It is coming inside. The nodules are coming inside, and the nodules will have plexiform pattern. It is anastomosing strands. And then outside there is mural. Mural will be outside in the connective tissue. Yes, this is another picture of mural. You can see this is the connective tissue. You can see ameloblastic epithelium infiltrates the connective tissue of the cyst wall. The infiltrating ameloblastic epithelium remains in direct continuity with the ameloblast epithelium lining system. So this is about its type. Then on radiographically, you will see that multilocular radiolucences with well-defined corticated margin. So you will see a well-defined corticated margins, and you can see multilocular radioluminescence. Mostly you can even see unilocular. Displacement of tooth to inferior border of mandible. You will see that there is displacement of this tooth to the inferior border due to this thinning of the inferior border as well of the mandible. Soap bubble appearance, you can see the soap here, you can see the thinning of the cortical plates, and now we come to the treatment and prognosis, enucleation and curettage. So what is this? In periphery ameloblastoma, the ones which are there in the periphery, simple excision performed, that is removal of the tumor by scraping it from the surrounding tissue. 60 to 90% recurrence rate. So now you have to decide which one is the one you are going to treat with this. As we had seen earlier, that other in conventional, the histological type had their recurrence rate. So the one which is having the least recurrence rate can be treated with this one. Because this one's recurrence rate, with this treatment, the recurrence rate is 60 to 90%. So the high recurrence rate you cannot use. You cannot treat with this. Are you understanding what I'm saying? We had learned about plexiform, follicular, and their recurrence rate. I'll go back. So this was follicular, plexiform, and acanthomedas. The acanthomedas had the least recurrence rate. So you think if you get an acanthomedas at the periphery, then you might treat it with curettage just by scraping it off from the periphery. And because with that treatment, the recurrence rate is 60 to 90%, and with this is 4.5%. So it may not recur back, but can be. You have a chance, but you will not. Supposedly you have follicular, you will not go with that curettage, because here only the recurrence rate is 30%, there it is 60 to 90%. Obviously it will reoccur. That's what I'm saying. So therefore it is important to know each of them, to identify each of them. Okay, this is removal. So this is how you do curettage. Can you see this? So they just scrape it off. Next is the removal of the tumor with a rim of uninvolved bone while maintaining the continuity of the jaw. So you remove the tumor with a rim of uninvolved bone. Remove the tumor, plus you remove a little bit of uninvolved bone. Why you do this? But you maintain the continuity. So this is a tumor over here, and this is supposedly the bone. Okay, so I am removing this tumor plus a little bit of rim of 1 to 2 centimeter, suppose, so that while maintaining the continuity. Beyond the radiographic, you take a radiograph and then you remove, considered to minimum acceptable margin for resection. That if something is gone into the bone, it can just get eradicated. So less number of recurrence. So if you see here, this is enucleation. Here is the tumor, but you remove a little bit more of the bone. Here it is. So less number of recurrence. And then segmental resection means you remove a full segment of the maxilla or mandible up to including hemisections. Even you can have this is the hemisection, and least. This has the least recurrence. Okay, this is more. This is the least recurrence. So you have follicular and all, you will go for this. But then there will be further treatment such as this titanium chains and all bands are placed for replacement of the rib also is grafted. All of that stuff we'll learn in oral surgery, not now. Metastasizing ameloblastoma. This term is used to describe a tumor that shows histological features, that is, of classic ameloblastoma in the gingiva or in the jaw, but has metastatic deposit. So histologically we will not find metastasizing or something different. It has the same features of classic ameloblastoma, but it can metastasize. That is, it can have its deposit, it can go somewhere else and form a tumor over there. So histologically it's benign conventional ameloblastoma, both the primary and the secondary features. What do I mean by primary? Primary where the tumor was first, suppose in the jaw, then it went somewhere else, it went in the lymph nodes, in the lung, and it will go there, it will metastasize, start growing there. There also the histological features are same as the histological features found in here, which are the same as the histological features found in benign ameloblastoma. Clinical features, if I talk about, then it's primary ameloblastoma in the mandible, just as I told you. 20 to 30 years you have presentation, or you can have repeated ameloblastoma which is treated and then can just go. I will talk about it later. 11 years not treated or repeated can go to metastasis. I will not write it and not treated. If it is repeated also can happen if there is with treatment. Metastatic nodules which develop into the lung, cervical nodes and the extractognathonic bones. What are the extract other than the jaw bones? Extract the lymph, it can go to the ribs, femur, all the long bones of the body. The lung is 80% metastasizing and the cervical node is 6%. This is less than 1%. Not 1%. Still not. Typically, pulmonary metastases are multifocal and involve both the lungs. So they go and involve both the lungs, the multilobular, not unilobular. And median survival after discovery is 2 years. Innocuous lung granulomas on routine chest examination. So when you have a chest examination, you will find granulomas on them, which are known as silent metastasis. It does not come into, it's asymptomatic. So you can, when you are just checking because of cough or any other reason, you can find granulomas on routine chest. It's a routine chest exam. It's not symptomatic, that's why you go and check. It's just routine. You will find these granulomas, just silent metastasis, asymptomatic it is. So etiology, it is it can grow further and then you can get the symptoms. Multiple recurrences of the jaw ameloblastoma, intrinsically more aggressive tumor. In the surgery associated, then when you are having a surgery, this I explained, the first one I explained, right? There is multiple recurrences of that which can intrinsically be more aggressive tumor. In surgery, what I said was, when you are having a surgery, if there is spillage into the adjacent tissue, then it can cause tumor over there, and tumor embolization into the lymphatic or the blood vessel. So the treatment of prognosis of this one is poor, and the cervical node metastasized, then there will be, if the cervical node metastasized, there can be neck dissection. I've spoken about the cervical nodes over here. You can just go and revise all the cervical nodes. If there is lung lesions excised, then will be lobectomy, and more pulmonary metastatic deposits, then will be chemotherapy. Metastasizing ameloblastoma is not that important, but I still did. Differential diagnosis is ameloblastic fibroma, odontogenic myxoma, central giant cell granuloma, dentigerous cyst, and OKC. We are going to cover them in the later videos. So I'll take a leave by saying thank you for watching.